we'll talk about that. Lots of great things happening. One of those I want to share with you is involving the wonderful franchises of McDonald's. McDonald's franchises, you know, they have seasonal things, like with Starbucks, for example. One of my favorite seasonal things is a snowman cookie. They have seasonal cookie themes. Valentine's Day would be a heart, you know, something thematic for that season. Well, this is a favorite, but I don't know how thematic it is for the month of December. Maybe it's because it's after Thanksgiving that they come out with, wait for it, the McRib. Well, I'm on a mission today to bring a McRib sandwich, two actually, home for lunch. And I have specific instructions about that, and I'm going to fulfill that. Hold one moment while I pause and do a technical thing. I'm back. Yeah, McRibs. It's a great seasonal thing, but I don't know for what season. What season does the McRib fit into? Well, be that as it may, it's out. It's back, and I'm going to go get two of them. One of them's a special order, and I'll make sure that I comply with that. But this is my long-winded way of saying, 'tis the season to be, and you fill in the question mark. I hope it's joyous and happy and festive in some way, shape, or form. But every December is a month of the year that just gets me kind of thinking about lots of different things, lots of different emotions. And we're going to talk about managing emotions today, because there's a lot of emotions in the sports world that it's hard to wrap your brain around what those emotions are. Let me put it this way, what the origin of those emotions are. It's not hard to put my brain around what the emotions are, because they range from everything from anger to frustration to elevated joy, kind of, sort of. Because if you're able to survive, you're going to have some good outcomes, and you got to be happy about that. Now, some could discount it a little bit and say, well, you know, it was a COVID season. Like I get COVID haircuts now. You know, like I wait 6 or 8 weeks and I look like a mountain man. A little gruffy today, but the hair gets way out of control and you got to go get it taken care of. Well, that's not anywhere near as emotional as what some of these franchises at the pro level or college campuses are experiencing as it relates to their sport. Now, that being said, we're going to shift from our holiday theme, and we're going to take a look at some words of wisdom from the past. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he says, "We have always held to the hope, the belief, the conviction that there is a better life, a better world, beyond the horizon." Hope. That's what FDR is talking about. At a time when the world is being literally blown up. Well, we're not quite there from a physical physics standpoint, but we're certainly metaphorically at a point where the world is being blown up by pandemic. You got your mask, you got your disinfectant. In this case, it's a germicide. Wonderful AvCare out there at shop.avcare, avkare.com, and get yourself some Waltz Free, some hand lotion. It's better than the alcohol-based stuff because it doesn't dry your skin out. Those healthcare workers out there, they love a lotion-based solution. And recently, Brigham Young University came out with a study about non-alcohol-based germicidal care like Waltz Free that kills COVID. Yeah, it does, right here. So when we're looking at the new horizons, or beyond the horizon, as FDR's quote states, do we have hope? Is there a better life, a better world? I think there are some that are making a better world. Heck, just the effort alone of my partner and spouse who made this wonderful bumblebee mask for me, as she's got one with hearts on it. I mean, we get creative. As I've said before, my King Soopers hasn't been so clean as it has been through the COVID, because everybody's concerned about being infected. I don't know that we all go to the point of being a germaphobe, but we're certainly, our consciousness has been raised. Now, as I say that, I want you to think about these words that I put together a few days ago about keeping a vision of what is better. And that will make us better is also a way for us to create a vision of hope. But I think people before me have said it a bit more succinctly, a little bit better. JFK said it this way: efforts and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. We've got people flailing away, making statements, making speeches, going through what look like actions that are bettering the humanity and community in which they live. But real effort and the courage associated with it is not enough. It's got to be directed, purposeful, and with intent or direction. So I really feel JFK's quote here. And in his regard of that quote, PT 109 was a book that was written about his experience as a Navy captain on a PT boat during World War II. And the thoughts that reference this quote for JFK were because of that experience, where not only did his crew sink some Japanese warships, but they weren't blown up. Their boat was rammed by a battleship and literally cut in half, and put them in the ocean to try to be rescued, survive that, and be rescued. With JFK, he was found an island, swam to an island, and his efforts were he was sunk during the Battle of Midway. But be that as it may, it's examples like that, through adversity like that, as the pandemic was coined to be like a war. We're at battle with an invisible foe that has very dire consequences for many of us. In excess of 250,000 people now that have perished as a result of the pandemic. That's regrettable. So what I'm leading us up to today is to talk about what's your truth. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But I tell you what, I borderline on the emotions, managing my emotions about being angry. I was just pissed off about a lot of different things. And it's kind of gotten its way into my family, and I regret that that's happened. I'm trying to get a handle on it. But I'm an example, like you might be, of being victimized by not just the virus of the pandemic, but the consequences of what it has caused us to do and behave like. That's more infuriating than anything. Limiting my movement. Look, and I'm not saying I shouldn't limit my movement. I want to play my part and do the best I can in following the science to do what I need to do. But it's impacting the world in which I work with. I work with athletes and high-performance executives to help them maintain their excellence, optimizing methods and strategies to do that, to make that happen. But it's tough. It's a horse race. It's really, really tough. I mean, it starts every day. It starts pretty much the same way. Got my mask. I did my swim this morning with my mask on. Not swimming with my mask on. That's hard to do. But I went into the facility with a mask on, constantly being aware of the mask. You got to sharpen your game. The swim is, you don't get to schedule your appointment to swim until 3 or 4 days after the week is started. So every Thursday I get to schedule an appointment for the next week, so it's 1 week at a time. And look, I'm saying this not to complain, but to point out to you that this is tough. And for those of us that are complying, you are courageous soldiers on the front lines of making sure that you don't get sick, or if you are asymptomatic, you're not making anybody else sick. So challenge your status quo, which everybody's been faced with that. I mean, wearing a mask is challenging our status quo. When was the last time you picked up a mask and wore it before a pandemic? Probably never, unless you're maybe a welder or a frontline healthcare worker. That's part of your day, especially if you're a surgeon. You probably, that's your status quo. I'm not asking you to challenge that if it's part of your standard, but I'm asking you to challenge your perception of yourself and the standards that are being asked in your behavior because of the pandemic. Some people are taking harder lines and tougher lines about it. They're saying, just grow up, be a champion. and make sure that you're staying focused on what's going on. And one of those groups that's being faced with running their horse race and adapting and adjusting as the field of horses shift and bump and change pace and in front of you is the NBA. The NBA had, in my opinion, they had a great end of the 2020 season, 2019-2020 season, because they really thought it through. And I want to think that they were an example to the NFL, National Hockey League, in creating their bubble. Now, every sport's different. Not every sport can do what the NBA did in going down to Florida and having one place where everybody congregated for workouts, practices, and competition. That's not as easily done when you consider the modality, the structure of an NHL hockey franchise or an NFL team. A lot more moving parts. So it's a little bit more hand-in-glove fit for the NBA. But we're now coming into the 2020-2021 season for the NBA, and the commissioner is making comments about safety, and some of those comments are going to be about no bubble. Oh well, big deal, no bubble. We were good, right? No bubble. But in November, after the session was done, 45 players of the NBA got COVID. Because now they're out of the bubble. They're out doing their thing. And they're subject to the communities they live in. So I go back to what I started with. Courage, wear your mask. Run the race. Maneuver and jockey according to what needs to happen. 6 feet apart. Wash your hands. All that social distancing stuff. Be aware of those not as fortunate as you that maybe have a higher level of exposure to the inflammation and the virus. So I hope the NBA is applying some of the thinking that they used when they had their bubble at the end of this last season, so that when they go into this next season with the attitude that the show will go on. They're going to have games, but they've got to be really diligent and courageous about maintaining the standards. That will involve the stadiums they visit on away games, the hotels and accommodations they're going to go to make sure that maybe their front people that go there have a discussion with the hotels about, hey, you're going to be able to give us rooms that are clean and secure before we get there, and that are going to allow us the traffic where we get to walk to stay away from crowds so we maintain distancing. I don't know that the full story is being told yet about how the NBA is going to maintain safety. Well, regardless of what will happen and what yet has to be said about safety by the NBA, they're still going to do 72 games. They've come out and said that. Now, if I was a coach for the NBA, I would be very concerned about a couple things. One is my conditioning of my players. We've had a relatively quick turnaround of our season, and we're now right back in it again. Now, for some players like LeBron James, he's feeling pretty good, I would imagine. 2-year extension with the Lakers. Maybe they're looking to repeat, and then repeat again, so they have a three-peat. See what I did there? Who knows? But it could be to their advantage when they've got players like LeBron and his leadership stepping up and really pushing the envelope, a lot like what Michael Jordan did back in his day to his teammates. Get in shape. Stay in shape. Work on your own bubble and get in there and really stay conditioned, because your weakest link on your team could be your biggest champion, because injuries are going to be a little higher as a percentage of injuries in the past than they ever have been, because we haven't had the time to really dedicate to training as they have done in the past. And if you haven't gotten it already, the past and the way we've done stuff is gone. Much of our life and world habits have changed dramatically because of COVID. So if you want to still deliver a high performance, you better be looking at how well you train yourself and then how you motivate your teammates to be trained as well. Because that weakest link, the less skilled person on the team that gets to rotate in maybe a couple minutes every game, if that, may in fact be your replacement when you go down with an injury. Now, want to see LeBron or anybody else go down. I would like to see players come back that were injured this last season and had the off season. They didn't get the chance to go down to the bubble. Their teams didn't make it to the playoffs, and they trained. And maybe they're going to be healthy, but there is a definite concern for the weakest link on a team not being as prepared as they could be, but they're going to be drawn upon to deliver some results because injuries are going to be more present than they have been in the past. So your weakest link could be your champion. Just a thought, right? What would you do if you were a coach or the commissioner about this? How would you prepare one franchise location to another when teams are coming in and out? How would you align with the Hyatts and the Marriotts of the world? Because they want you to come in. They want you to have a 72-game season to be in their facilities. But there's going to be some change. We need to adapt and adjust and not bellyache about, oh my gosh, I got to wear this mask. And this is not wearing your mask. That's wearing your mask. As a pro in the NBA, NFL, NHL, keep going. Skiers, snowboarders, the Olympics are coming. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. You got to step up. If you think of yourself as a champion, here's a chance for you to exercise your championship behavior. Now, in preparation for being a champion at the professional level, there's that wonderful four-letter word, NCAA. Well, they've been faced with a challenge in addition to the pandemic. And it implies there could be a breakup within the NCAA. Here's what I'm talking about. The football, the FBS, and the college football players program is looking to separate from the NCAA. Here's why. They don't agree with what they're doing. They believe the NCAA is stretched too thin and is not able to administer to the most lucrative part. A close second is the March Madness in basketball. But nonetheless, football is still a major revenue-generating resource, and for the schools as well as for the NCAA. The schools, certain schools, some will go nameless, but conferences will not. SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Big Ten. Those are just to name a few that are saying we have an economic interest in this. Now, if they haven't already, they're going to come out and say, well, we also have a scholarly interest in this as well, because what we do, football, economic success generates scholarship dollars. I'm going to call foul on that, throw a flag, give a card, pick whatever sport you want for the check down of the behavior, metaphor. It's bullshit. It's just flat out. I don't believe anything they're saying about that they're trying to be scholarly. They're going to take a huge emphasis in managing the scholarly aspects of the athletes, their health and welfare. It will all be driven by money. Look, I'm saying this not as an observer. I've been in it, around it, touched it, smelled it. I know what it's about from behind the scenes. I don't know that it's a good or a bad thing that the NCAA has a separation into FBS and CFP. What I do know is what the real intent is. Just call it what it is. Don't dance around it. Just say what it is. We're in it for economic reasons, and we want to make sure that the student athletes are well taken care of. And then deliver on that point. Spend the money to make sure the athletes are made whole throughout that whole program. There's a whole list of slices of programs. You get to get paid to play kind of thing could come out for the the new league they're calling about is the National College Football Association, NCFA. And if that happens, I hope that they're going to start looking at those issues that football teams across the country. Northwestern, as a reminder, historically, there was a player for Northwestern, the quarterback, that wanted to organize and unionize college football players. Look, I'm all for college players getting the benefit of their brand and image rewarded for what they do on and off the field. But there's no control. And the people that should have control are not necessarily, the people that should have control have players' interest at heart. The ones that seem to be getting the control are aligned with corporate America for branding, for identity, for merchandising, for the economic growth and benefit that they think they can bring to the table that the NCAA has not, it's a big mess. And I regret if I'm not articulating it well enough, or I may be slipping on the facts a bit. I'll correct that in the future. But I think I'm accurate in my premise and the ideology that I'm promoting here about take care of the athletes. They're the ones who need to win first. And I'm hoping that the win is on the student part of the statement, student athlete, before it's athlete. It better not be athlete student, because that's not good for the sport. It's not good for the professional career that they might have going forward. I'm reminded when I say that Phil Jackson's remarks about the NBA allowing players to come into the league at younger ages. You know, high school students. He says, I've been a parent. I don't need to be a parent as a professional coach. And as it is, 19-year-olds can get into the NBA. If LeBron was around these rules when he was in high school, he probably would have been recruited and pulled out of high school. Wouldn't be necessarily a good thing for him. His career trajectory may not have been what it has been if he would have been pulled out earlier, because he may have been faced with some maturity issues that, as Phil Jackson points out, needs to be addressed before they get to the pros. We're not equipped or armed for that. That's why I'm concerned about the NCAA and this challenge with a new association being named as the National College Football Association. Now, everybody that's out there listening, none of this has happened yet. It's just been proposed that there's a breakup coming. Now, even with the breakup, the organizers of the football plan for the breakup say you could keep the basketball and all the other sports. And that's like a backhanded insult. There's a lot of great things that happen because of the lesser sports, lesser meaning not as economically viable or strong, but they're still valuable to the whole process of being a collegiate athlete. I've been in study halls and watched athletes commiserate with one another and help each other be better students. That means the golf and soccer teams, tennis teams, are working with football players and basketball players. They're all coming together and working on their academics to be better as a student athlete. But that focus and that resolve and ideology of being a student athlete does not stick into the mind of the student athlete without leadership guiding them to that conclusion, emphasizing the importance of study time, giving them a chance to make good choices about their social welfare, both on and off the competitive court. I'm concerned about this. I'm going to be watching it. Got my eye on you, seeing what's going on. But regardless of where it goes, again, back to the athlete, show me the love. Give me an indication that you're showing and demonstrating the love for the student athlete. And if you extend it to the pros, do the same thing there. Pros are facing issues with their families as it relates to the COVID. If we allow the NCAA to break up these pieces and have a separate association for football, that could be detrimental to the long-term career path of a professional football player. What if they get injured and you didn't spend the time to prepare them academically? It's tough to make choices after that. See there? Segue. Because it means great, you've got to be good at your preparation. What you do to get these student athletes, or even the pros, the orientation, the onboarding process of a rookie player is not that effective. Football's doing a better job. I've got colleagues all over the country that are involved in that onboarding process for rookies in the football. But once you move away from the NFL, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, I got to put Major League Baseball a little higher, a little closer to the NFL. But both MLB and NBA have their challenges with their onboarding process of their rookies. But quality of that preparation needs to be more mindful of the socialization process, social issues that need to be made aware of that they aren't, because they have been entitled for so many years. And when you take an athlete out of a home environment that wasn't very structured to begin with, but because of their sports and the skills they have in that sport, they were able to get out of that area, who they go to are, they have target families that house them to help them through that socialization process, that acculturation that they go through. But that doesn't mean when they make it, if they make it to the pros, that they have been properly and fully acculturated. We still have issues with sexual violence and gender issues, let alone the racism that we have on the streets in our communities. And we could be addressing it sooner so that we don't have the big problem later. We're not doing that. Show me the love. Let's have some quality preparation. You know, any great ideas usually have some kind of really exciting and very high level of expectations. And by the nature of what was stated, it becomes positive. For some people, it's just tell them we're going to make money versus lose money. That's a positive expectation. I'm speaking a little bit more fully, more holistically about positive expectations. But one of the things I've realized over the years is we don't speak enough about what I expect. Here's what I want. And I was faced with that just the last couple of days. Being clear about what I want. It's not easy. And it's not easy to admit to yourself you need some help. Because if you need help and you don't go get it, those positive expectations may be short-lived. And that's a testament to my ability as an individual to adapt and adjust once I'm aware of the obstacle coming at me. I'd like to be able to predict it and know when it's coming and prepare for it before it even gets there. That doesn't always happen, especially if it's a new experience. But once again, with the theme of show me the love, my teammates are around me, whether it's teammates in business or teammates in sports, you need to identify for yourself, where do I need the help so that those who want to support me are clearly able to know when adapting and adjusting is necessary. So sharing your expectations in a positive way when as you represent a quality effort. It's obvious, I see how you're preparing, I see how hard you're working, so I don't have any hesitations jumping in there and helping you adjust and adapt. Now, this last thing about what I put up here is the safety for all. Well, I put it up there, and it relates to the other three, because you want to be safe in whatever you're doing. You know, if you expect something and you think it's positive, it may not be all that safe or comfortable for someone else. So in sharing your expectations, make sure you're talking to your colleagues and your teammates about, well, what would you like to be accountable for? Here's this project we have. Here's my expectations. I'm really excited about it. So I think they're fairly positive. And I'd like you to fit in here. Is that something you think you can do? Would you be willing to be accountable for that? All right, okay. So we can move on in a positive, high-quality way. We're able to adjust and adapt because we've communicated together as a team, and that could help us be safe. Like family members, I can tell them when to pull their mask up because I want to be safe. I don't know that everybody walking the malls, or I don't know how many people walk in the malls these days, but if you are, it's holiday, you're shopping. I'm still not into that e-commerce, cyber shopping thing. But there's lots of ways you can be safe. The obvious ones in today's environment is with the health emergency. Do the things that are necessary. Shall we review? Wash your hands. Get in the fingers, scrub it, friction, soap and water, get her done. Okay? And then apply germicides, especially after you've been someplace where the environment you've had to touch something, a door handle, somebody gave you something, picked up a Starbucks. Especially if you see that the establishment doesn't require everybody that's serving to wear rubber gloves. If they don't, okay, it's a paper cup, may not be of any consequence, but after you drink your drink, as you're drinking your drink, don't touch your face. And after you're done, put on a germicide, clean yourself up. Make sure that that is part of your process. Oh man, are we telling truths? Gosh, I hope so. I told you the truth as we started the show this morning. McRib is back. It's a McDonald's thing. It's a seasonal thing. I'm not so sure about how seasonal it is when you drop it in December. After all, it's a barbecue rib sandwich. Really nice bun. Pickles and onions on there. Okay? Getting hungry yet? I am. And then when you make a combo out of it, you got the dipping fries into that extra barbecue sauce, if that's what you want to do. Or maybe you took the onions and the pickles off. You're going to put your own condiments on there at home. It's all good stuff, but I'm not so sure it's stuck in the holiday. Not so sure about that. So, truth be told is based on whether or not you know and confidently have resources for finding your truth. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, we had, that's why I have my mustache, everybody. It's Movember. It's December, but I'm doing it for Movember. And I'm going to grow it all the way to January 4th. So if you could go to Movember.com and put in Lowell Whiteman, that's me, you'll be able to see the progress of my mustache and maybe donate to the cause of men's health and the causes of testicular and prostate cancer, because that's what they're all about. Men's mental health and those two amazing diseases that they've knocked down quite a few people. Prostate and testicular cancer are primary sources of illness for men. And testicular cancer is for young men, which is interesting. So check that out, Movember. Go to Movember.com and check that out. Because that's one of my truths. I don't grow a mustache very well. I've accepted it. I understand it. But how many of us know the truth and then decide to go contrary to the truth? As a performance consultant in mental performance coaching, that is a key thing for me to pick up on. When you tell me one thing, here's the example. For those of you who've been around practices or games, they don't know if they do it still now, but players go, "My bad, coach. My bad." I would get so up in them. I'd say, "Don't do that. Don't do it," because that's an excuse. That's you telling me you know you screwed up, but you may not do anything about it because all you did is pound your chest and say, "My bad, coach." I want you to tell me, "Coach, that'll never happen again." Because if we're going to compete, if we're going to perform, the truth is we don't need to repeat it. The truth is you got to get better. And the other truth is if you don't, you're coming out. In the pro and some college ranks, next man up. You play at Alabama, you got to be good every single snap, or somebody's going to come get your job. They're as close to, as a college program, as close to a pro program as any program out there in college sports, from a behavior standpoint, from an expectation standpoint. And they got the money to make it happen. That's the other part of it. But those are the way you look at truths if you really want to be a performer. Look, I was faced with some truths this week myself. It's not fun. Especially when you fashion yourself, and legitimately so, because you put in the time, you got the education, you have the experience, to legitimately speak your mind with confidence. Well, sometimes that confidence rolls into areas that you're a little edgy on, whether you're the expert or not. But because of that history, you project yourself as an expert. That's a truth you have to be willing to face, that you're not the best or the brightest in the room all the time. That's how teams are created. That's how teams are galvanized when the admission and acceptance of that truth is felt by everybody on the team. Just because you're the quarterback doesn't mean you know everything. Are you a key position? Should you do a pretty good job at being a quarterback so others can perform their tasks as well? It would be tough for a wide receiver to catch a football if nobody passed it to him. Same thing with a running back. Hard to make a 1,000-yard season or a 100-yard game if they don't hand you the ball. So it takes a team. So what you do and say off the court or field of competition is a truth that you have to be aware of and be willing to face with some integrity and some humility. My grandpa was a really wise man. And I hope that as I'm a grandpa, I pass on some of this wisdom myself. And he used to tell me, he says, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. So said Gramps. And what's interesting to me is that Gramps, he messed up every once in a while, but because of the time period I was raised, if Gramps messed up, I didn't tell him that. I didn't say, Gramps, you said that, but I'm not going to believe it. But Gramps, that's what you told me. You know, believe half of what I see and none of what I hear. I don't think I wanted to do that at the time. Now, I speak truth to power now because that's, one, it's part of my job. Two, it's part of who I am. I got knots on my head proving to you that I've spoke truth to power in the past and just didn't run fast enough to get away from it. And in the sports world, truth to power is when you, as a linebacker, get in the gap. That's truth. The power is coming right at you. No getting around that. Now the issue is, whose truth wins? Is it yours, the linebacker, making the stop? Or is it the running back that's the power coming at you? That's a real use of truth to power. That's a real use of understanding what is behind the meaning of truth be told. Lots of examples in our world. The challenge I give to you and my clients every single week is discover where those truths are and make a decision. Are you going to jump in the gap and meet the power? Truth be told, the champion linebackers, they do that. Von Miller would just love to be there right now doing that. Regretfully, he's not able to do that yet. But when he does, there'll be a truth that he's going to have to face too. He got in the gap, but is his preparation and recovery from his injury enough to deal with the power? It's an interesting time we're living in right now because of the challenges we're facing from stuff we can't see. And that requires a lot of courage and faith and hope. And to many people, especially in the sports world that don't want to deal with words, they want to be the Nike slogan. Just do it. Don't talk to me. Don't talk at me. Just do it. So those words like faith and hope and belief and integrity, resiliency, power, courage, but just words. What do they mean? I do pretty well demonstrating and showing high-performance individuals how to put words in your brain to create an image in your mind that then delivers movement from your body and results that you can believe in. Truth be told. And what I've set you up for is this next quote about how do you filter out the untruths? I mean, look at, man, we are embedded in social media. We are embedded with no excuses about being out of touch. Because you have these tools. If you don't have them, you have more of an excuse than others about not being informed, not being in touch, not having a pathway to the truth, or in this case, filtering where are the untruths. But maybe if you didn't have all this stuff, you would have more clarity about what the untruths are. Truth be told. So here's an example. When I'm watching athletes, I'm giving them insights on how to be better at their brain and their senses feeling what their body's doing so they can reproduce high performance actions faster, sooner, and with more deliberation and focus, which more than likely should raise the probability that the outcomes you practice for actually get delivered. That if you envision catching the long ball, you score a touchdown. there's other factors that are in play to stop you from doing any of that. But the issue is, what are the untruths in that whole process? That's what I want to point out to the athlete. And the example with a wide receiver, I'd say, you're not fast enough. We've just discovered an untruth. You've been telling people how fast you are as a runner, and it's been a while since we measured your 40 to really get a true number. But once we do, we're going to refute that untruth that you say you're really, really fast. Now, that being said, let's make sure that with that untruth, we look at who you are and look at that reality and say, what are we going to do about it? Maybe it's the way you run your routes. Maybe with a more precise route running, you will not be any faster, but you'll be quicker, more deceptive, and you'll create the space. Look, we can go down through NFL records or even current day rosters and find any number of players that when you look at them on the books, on the stat sheets, on the one dimension, you go, how are they getting a contract? Why would they, how would they make the NFL lineup and rosters? That's unbelievable. For some of you, you're old enough to remember back in the day when point guards, the NBA was saying the profile of the ideal point guard is 6'3" or taller, and can get to the rim with both hands and is an outside shooter, blah, blah, blah. Well, height was the big deal. But then comes Spud Webb. And with the belief that his untruths, he may believe in his mind he's 6'5", but he was really 5'9", and that may be stretching it. Look at, I'm 6'2", and I think that I'm 6'8" in my head. So if my mind could be in a 6'8" body, I'd still be in the NBA right now. We deal with untruths all the time. The combat is positive self-talk, is to work with the truths that you have and that you tell those truths to yourself over and over and over again. So that even though you may believe only half of what you see, when you make your actions mean something, those who are watching you can do nothing but, gotta believe that. Truth be told. So there's a lot of competition out there, and with a competitor, it sometimes is difficult to help them through changes like what we're facing with COVID. And that particular reality or truth has caused us to push really, really hard against these competitors to make changes that they are not well equipped to make. And even when they try with a valiant effort, is still very cumbersome and causes them to falter. Whereas before this moment, there was no faltering. So if you're watching today, you're seeing that I've got a picture of the LSU head coach bedecked with his colors. I don't know, purple and orange for me are like, nobody looks good in purple or orange. I'm sure there are lots of people that do, but I don't. So they're not my favorite colors. But it does graphically punch at you and say, look at that. He's wearing that mask on the sidelines, and that does not look good for him. He's a great man. I've met him a couple times, but it just doesn't look good. But he does it anyway. He does it anyway because it's necessary to do. It's over his nose, covering his mask. Now, look, if I sound like I'm harping on the COVID stuff and the protocol, it's because it's a performance issue. If we don't do it, you could get sick. Can't perform then. Can't be your best in the boardroom or on the ball court or the ball field. It's a performance issue. As I say to every one of my clients, I need to be aware of every person and thing that comes into your world because they may influence your performance in some way. Good or bad. Hopefully good. But we've got to have the courage to face up to it. So I don't apologize. If I'm harping on it, I do it on purpose because it's important. It's a performance issue. But for how long? How long will this last? Mask up. Still got to do it. It'll last as long as it takes for you and others to get in your minds that this is a good, and if not the best step, to convert the pandemic into a healthier lifestyle and community. Put on a mask. Wear the mask when you should. In this studio, there's nobody else in here but me. When I leave this studio, this place gets disinfected. We are doing what's right here. When I leave the studio, mask goes on. Because it's a performance issue. I want to deliver a performance for you every Friday at 11 o'clock, streaming on KUHSdenver.com. See what I did there? Yeah. LSU, along with all, I shouldn't say it that way, LSU with many NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3 teams are courageous enough to do what needs to be done to get us to the next level and make this happen. Now, the show theme today was I'm emotionally misplaced with this. I want to say pissed. I'm angry. Yeah, all of that's there. There's lots of different emotions. But I wanted to bring it up because, or use this theme because everything we've talked about this morning is about facing courageously things that none of us, nobody has ever experienced before. And yet there are people talking like they know what's the best path. The scientists have finally got themselves wrapped around the disease. They've talked to each other, but it took so long for that to happen because somebody said, oh, well, China this and China that. We should have been dialoguing with them from the beginning, like a huddle on the football field, sharing the signals, understanding the movements on the defensive side of the ball, when to audible, when to adjust, when to call a timeout because it doesn't look good. Every Friday at 11 a.m., I stream on KUHS Denver. The month of December is an interesting month. It's a celebration. It's a time to look at our world and rejoice in family and friends and the holiday spirit that comes to you from whatever that source might be. On December 10th is the first day, the first eve of Hanukkah, which has a special place in my heart. The pageantry, the celebration that is there. Whatever you choose for your celebration this season, do it with a sense of what are your truths and how are you handling the untruths? What are you doing in your environment to be aware of how you need to perform at your best? But as you do that, you're aware of others around you so that you can fearlessly embolden them to do what is right. This isn't a competition amongst citizens about, well, you don't have a mask on, or why do you have a mask on? This isn't a competition because everybody's going to get this. Everybody to some level is going to feel the pain and suffering of this virus. And for me, it's a performance issue. So once again, if it sounds like I'm harping on this, I'm not. It is an everyday occurrence for all of us. It gets in the way of each of us being our best. So adjust and adapt. Be the best you can be every single day. Now, as I say that, let me give you some insights about the future of 360 Performance going forward. Got a great show coming up next week on, once again, Friday, 11 o'clock. I'm going to be looking at technology through the month of December, adding some new things. If you ever have an idea about wanting to put together your own talk show or your own information show, boy, check out Henry Archuleta and KUHS Denver because we got it going on here. We are streaming across the airwaves. This is not the internet, my friends. This is streaming technology, a digital push of messaging and information that many have a difficult time trying to put together. And it's certainly not a podcast. So I encourage you to take advantage of the wonderful work that we do here. and listen every day for the great sounds. The music we have here, please. There's some great artists that both come through this door and also have been on the Billboard charts, have been out there doing what they need to do every day as an artist. One piece of advice I want to give everybody here about technology is that if you have more than one mouse, make sure you use the right one or you're not going to get the results you expect. I was playing with the mouse. I'm going, why isn't it working? Why? It was the wrong one. Boy, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Meet the challenge. I'm feeling better. You've been so cathartic for me today. I came in feeling really amped up and a little angry, maybe even close to being pissed off about just how much it takes out of us every day to just deal with what's going on. My work is about performance issues and making yourself your best and having the courage and the wherewithal to push forward through challenges, which is called resiliency. And as I say that, and wanting to have more fun and get through, start the weekend really right, is to remember that resiliency, the metaphor for me is the Pillsbury Doughboy. You poke his tummy, pull your finger out, boom, he comes back with a giggle. He comes back very quickly. So I hope that you are facing the holiday season in a way that when you get poked, you come back with a giggle and you keep moving on and having fun with what you're doing so that you are armed with the strategies and techniques to manage the emotions. And when we've got the stuff that's in our world today over and above what was our norm, it's a challenge. Try to look for your fellow man and when they need your support, and ask them if you can. Don't presume that just because their mask is down that you have the right to tell them to put it up. But you should, in fact, inquire as to why it is down and ask them a question as though you're supporting them rather than accusing them of something or criticizing them of something. Be the best you can be in every moment of the day by thinking about this. If I were given the opportunity to change anything in the last 24 hours, what would it be? If you identify something, go and do it. If it requires an apology to someone, go and do it. Managing the emotions that have charged you up in a negative way are quickly abated by you first recognizing that you have ownership of that behavior. And then secondly, you take corrective action to make it right in a positive way. There are lots of opportunities for us to help our fellow man. And you don't have to look too far than your local healthcare provider and first responders. So I challenge you, as I'm going to try to do over the next few weeks, is drop by a fire station and say thanks. Maybe you'll have some coffee in your hand, or maybe not. But just to say thank you may be enough to put a smile on a firefighter's face. Or maybe when you're in the grocery store, to say thank you for those grocery store workers that are stocking the shelves, organizing the produce, and making it right for you, that you recognize that they are too helping you be your best with proper nutrition and food products. Lastly, I want to make sure that you recognize our healthcare workers. You may have people in your family that are part of that fraternity and sorority of workers that are literally putting their lives on the line to make our worlds better and be charitable in their actions to help someone through some tough times health-wise. I would encourage you to stand in the entryway of the emergency room and just smile or say thank you. If taking the mask down is not proper, just say thank you and recommend to them that you're there to say to them how much you appreciate what they're doing. That would be gestures that don't cost you anything, but speak volumes to what we are as people and how we can help move the needle forward more quickly perhaps than we've thought about in the past. But as many have said, the virus will run its course. but it won't run its course until it's lost something to feed on. Now that sounds a little bit nasty, but that's the reality. A virus is a living cellular entity in our world. And for it to survive, it has to feed. It has to find some place to land. But if we don't give it a place to land, the number of the colonies, if you will, the disease, the germ, they dissipate because there's no place to feed them. There's no environment or food source to keep them whole. We've got to do what's right. We've got to understand the science to make that happen. Now, as I say that, I want to give you these thoughts as well. When you need a distraction, there are some people doing some great things in doing it right. We've got football this weekend on television, on cable. We've got great and wonderful technological systems that have archived and libraried so many wonderful moments in sports history and in sports performance. So take advantage of that so that you keep that mind right. Keep that focus on positive expectations that you can share with one another. Whether if it's a smile, you can do it with a smile for family and friends at home. If you go out and stop by the fire station, stop by the hospital or medical center, and just give a happy, or 6 feet away, take your mask off and smile. Whatever the case may be, share that positivity with them. Now, my show for next week, we're going to have, we've got a couple of guests that haven't confirmed yet, but we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and stretch that discussion out because, as I've said today, they've started to define the 2020-21 season. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen with the NHL. Supposedly they were going to be starting their season as well, but let's see what happens with that. Baseball is in the throes of God only knows what training camp and rookies are going to be like. And listen to this: Major League Baseball training camp starts in less than 3 months, based on history. That's coming. So how many of us are going to be thrilled, if we've done it in the past, to go down to Florida to watch preseason ball, or go to Arizona and watch the preseason ball? I got a friend of mine right here in Colorado that loves the Cubs. God only knows why. I don't understand that. He could have been a White Sox fan, but he does. He loves the Cubs, and he goes down to Phoenix and hangs out at the stadium for a couple of weeks. That's part of what he does. Will he now? It will be tough if he has to face that reality. But I'm optimistic. The vaccine is coming out. I should say vaccines. It's all about COVID, but it's 3 different providers. We'll wait and see how that all plays out. But like my grandpa said, when you hear things, don't take it as an absolute truth right off the bat. Be aware of what's going on and ask questions to qualify the truth so that you have answers for it. Truth be told. Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. I enjoy your time with family and friends. Be safe with that. Wear the mask. Distancing is important. Wash your hands. Find that germicide. As I said, I've got my lotion here instead of the alcohol-based, which is far better for my hands. And be aware of possibilities that will make us better, despite the challenges we have today. Love doing what I'm doing. Have a great day today. This is Coach Whiteman with 360 Performance at KUHSdenver.com, streaming your way every Friday at 11 a.m. Have a great day today. Here's a great song. Someday we'll get by. Have a great day today, people.